Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 2 vs 2 on Urban Frontlines. This is a new map that was released for everybody alongside the latest Nemesis DLC, which introduced the 2 new air assault divisions, one of which I'm going to be playing today. I'm going to be playing the 56th Air Assault. We're already underway, so let's have a quick look at the units we're getting down. There are a lot of new unique units in this division, and I'll do my best to show them off for you today. So first of all, the Luaz with the Spetsnaz GRU. Little go-karts here, bringing these 4-man squads to the front line. Very similar to SAS, just with less numbers. Then we have the Afghansky. This has a radar on it, which gives it exceptional optics. Sounds absolutely awesome, by the way. Really like the engine sound of that. Then we have the Chaika following up. The Chaika is our leader. Going to be moving to Echo to capture that for us. We have another Luas with a Conquest team. And then we have the Mad Max convoy over here. The Ochrana coming in with the Euro Metla. Very cool. And we also have a couple of Meti squads coming in with the BTRs, which have grenade launchers on the top of them. We've also got over here the BTR 70 S8, which has the S8 rocket launcher on top of it. So really cool stuff at the start here. When my Spetsnaz getting into position opposite the enemy across this middle sector, the way that this map works is you have these 4 sectors on the backside on both sides. And then there's one sector in the middle that's contested. Trying to get my Conquest on target here. Vector doing some work early on with the AMX-10s. So it's really up to this Conquest team to get the job done. But unfortunately going to be missing that time around as the AMX-10 retreats. And my good old Ural Metlers are going to be trying to get into a good position where they can use their rocket fire support from a distance to engage enemy units in these buildings. On the right hand side here, Taki going to be pinging to attack, so I'm going to bring in some forces there to help out. But meanwhile, what we're doing across the front here is just sort of spreading out, setting up a nice defensive line. You can see that I've brought in the SPG-9s in the GTMU-1D, which also has its own recoilless on the top, so that's really cool. Double SPG-9 action there. I've also got the GTMU-1D with the ZU-23 on top. There's lots of really interesting new units in this division, and I guess you could already tell that by the amount that I've zoomed into. Here's another one actually, the BTR with the RYS napalm launcher on top. That's really good at taking care of enemy infantry, because not only does it have its 2 machine guns, its napalm can put down some serious DPS against infantry and buildings. So AMX-10's currently doing a decent job of holding us back. The Conquest has now got into this building, and that gives it great line of sight over this city. So the Ochrana, really nice infantry squads. So 10 strength, 45 points, have security trait. Now security trait I actually really like, because it increases their optics and spotting abilities to good when they're not moving. Oh, there goes the Metla, rocketing those grenadiers to death. They tried to push across the open. So Vector here, going to be trying to sneak a leader into that sector. We did manage to capture it early on. Mi-24P of Taki went down on the right hand side. The MiG-23 trying to finish off the Phantom, but the Stinger gets the job done. You can see that I did land both of my helicopters here to avoid them getting killed by the Mirage F1C. This Mi-8 MTV is really nice because it has 20% ECM. So that alongside its rocket payload, it's really difficult for the opponents to deal with. But my Chaika's come all the way across here to capture that, which is going to negate the +2 that our opponents had on us. And you see on the left hand side, the Spetsnaz GRU, pretty close to India sector. But the next thing that I'm bringing in that's new is the 240mm cluster mortar. This thing is very, very good. So against light vehicles, it can basically one-shot them. Against medium and heavy vehicles, I've generally had the experience that you want to have like 2 of them fire at the same target. But in this case, we're just going to be targeting the corner of this sector to see if we can do some damage against any vehicles there, as well as potentially the leader. So nice job by the Conkers, pops the AMX-10 RC. My Sapari going to be doing a runner. You can see that I brought over the Metler here to help out, and that's going to help destroy the group Antichar. My ZG-23-2 on top of the GTMU is also moving up, because I thought that I would be able to help engage all of these VABs, kind of staying out of the line of sight of the AMX-10s in the meantime. This Conker's position is actually really, really nice, so definitely one to note if you're ever going to play this game, with this map, I would say. Like, these buildings here have a fantastic line of sight over the center sector there. So my Afghansi, they're just kind of chilling at the moment. I don't really have a place to use them, so just leaving them in the helicopter. On the right hand side, I've got the MI8 just providing recon over this area, and this big blue circle is the jammer trait. So you can see this has the jammer stuff on the side, and it's got the jammer trait there. So that downgrades the optics of enemy recon equipped with radar, and also cancels enemy artillery correction within its area of effect. So that's what's happening within this blue circle. So if they were trying to RT this Spetsnaz GRU, they wouldn't be able to use corrected shot to get that done. So finally just going to land the Afghansi and kind of push them back up to the position where the Sapari were, whilst the Sapari come back and get themselves fixed up, and we're going to start to kind of try and hover the Mi-8 over so that it can get its rockets on target of the Santichar unit. I've also got a BMP-2D coming in. BMP-2D, nice and solid BMP, 30mm auto cannon, Conker's HGM, also has the machine gun, so does plenty of decent damage to enemy infantry while still providing that long range HGM support. In this case, going to be pretty useful for taking on the AMX-10 at range. So we're going to allow that to just use its Conkers. And, well, turns out the Warrior Milan was the target. The MX-10s, they're going to come forwards. I'm going to smoke off the BMP-2D and keep it alive. I think the BMP-2Ds in this division are actually relatively important to keep alive, because whilst you do have T-62s, the BMP-2Ds are kind of a core of the way you're going to help your infantry deal with sort of APCs. I feel like APC abundant divisions could really get a good leg up against this division once they break down your HGMs. Because things like Warriors and Marders and AMX-10Ps, for example, in this case, are really going to do a number to your like BTRs that come in with rocket pods or with napalm launchers and all that good stuff. So yeah, having the BMP-2Ds to prevent you being overrun by those is super important. You can see there, lovely kill from the AMX, or onto the AMX. We take out the MX-10RC with the Cluster 240. Very nice, and the Grad's going to be targeting the backside here. I could go for the leader, but I'm targeting the Milan just to get rid of that, because just like my HGMs are going to be a big threat to their APCs, their Milans are going to be a big threat to my APCs. So I need to get rid of those Milan 2s, and then we can just drive up the BMPs to help engage the infantry potentially. But the AMX-30 is kind of making that difficult to commit to at the moment. But one thing we do need to note is that they are currently taking the +2. Because they have control over this middle sector, it's difficult for us to get any points on the board. So I'm going to go for the second half of the rockets onto where the leader was. I fired half of them, moved it, fired again from a new position. T-62 that tried to move in here did get taken out, but the Jaguar goes down for it. And we can see that the 240mm cluster is firing away again. And it's going to hit the AMX-10 there, and you can see roughly how much damage it does. So it's pretty effective, considering this has like 1 top armor. And if you had 2 of them, you could probably pop most things. Although I believe, like heavy tanks, maybe you need more than that. But another one firing there, taking out AMX-30B2 on the backside. Very nice indeed. I spotted the Ronin 3, we're going to continue to engage those. So microing these is really, really important. They are very expensive, 230 points each. For a mortar, that's like crazy expensive. So what you want to do is make sure that after every shot you move them, more or less. Otherwise you are leaving yourselves very vulnerable to counter battery, as they are like towed vehicles, and you know, they will get killed by enemy artillery very, very quickly. Well, here's another new unit, the Mi-6A. This thing has 2,000 supply, very similar to a Chinook in the way that it works. You know, it's got basically exactly the same stats as a supply Chinook. And the Grad's going to be using that there to resupply its rockets. So the BMP-2 is coming over now, providing close range fire supports. Ideally, you do want to get this into PKT range if you can, because having the extra machine gun fire on target is going to deal the extra DPS that you sometimes need to kill off infantry quicker. But the Conker's already taken out a VAB. Now we're going to be shooting the AMX-10. The AMX-13, sorry, these have 20mm, but it's really not as good as the 30mm that the BMP-2s get. You see the abundance of fire support there, doing a good job. The Metis taking out the Warrior, very nice. Now Mirage 5 coming in with a napalm. Our infantry squad's going to want to get out of there. Unfortunately, no hits, as the Igla and Strela both miss. This has been brought in with the GTMU-1D. It's going to be getting into a better position in front of that building, so it's not blocked by line of sight. So on the left-hand side here, there was a little bit of an attack, so just bringing over the Mi-24 to cover that off. We saw some units come in here, so we brought over those helicopters just to respond. And now I'm just going to be taking out these 2 units of infantry with the Grad support. And you can see that I'm going to be basically using half of the volley and then moving them, and we'll use the other half on something else. And it works really, really well when you have multiple Grads, because you can get really, really good saturation in a very short amount of time, but not waste too many rockets. So that's really, really good. And yeah, doing it with 2 is probably, I would say, ideal. Doing it with any more, potentially wasteful. You can see the whole time my mortars moving, firing again. Anytime you're hearing these cluster strikes hit the enemy, that's my mortars. The enemy doing the same now with their cluster. And they're constantly trying to counter battery the Grads, but we're of course making sure to move them after they fire. And any artillery that you use in WARNO, do make sure to move them after you fire. And now we have the lovely T62MD. This model in-game is absolutely gorgeous. Moving up 2 of those to help deal with the AMX-30Bs. The AMX-30Bs, they have 15 penetration, and the T62 has 14 front armor, so we should be able to deal with them quite nicely. Meanwhile, the Grads are going to be trying to take care of the Milan 2 there. The AMX-10 key was nearby, so maybe we'll take that with us as well. But yeah, it's going to be up to the T62s here to get the shots on target. They do have the Bastion A2Gem, so they can engage at 2,800 meters range, and that A2Gem is pretty fast. Unfortunately, a lot of my sapere on the right hand side here didn't really make it. I was hoping to kind of push them over here, but this was a lot more open than I had imagined. Up here, the Spetsnaz GRU missing the opportunity to take out the Saxon, but at least this unit was ready to take out the Milan 2s that were moving up on this left hand side. We're also going to be able to hit the Saxon there with the Mi-24P. SPG-9 going to be taking out the second one. So our defences here working out okay. I didn't really appreciate that this was going to be the SAS at the time. I completely forgot. I'm so used to a lot of the SAS being used at the start of the game that I didn't even think that they would be brought in sort of midway through, and so the Mi-24 is going to go down while I wasn't paying attention, because the T-62s have got into position to take control of this road, and we're going to be able to take out both the AMX-30 there and the AMX-10P Milan. So bombers now going to be coming in on the left hand side to try and break down my defences. A little bit overkill of the tornado there to blow up my SPG-9. But we have the GTMU going for a swim. That's going to go find the SAS on the other side. Alright, 240 mils now firing away once again. I was targeting where the Challenger was. The damage that that Challenger had already taken was due to these mortars. So we're certainly starting to get the better of our opponents, just trading pretty well so far. That's what we really need to keep doing. Like, yes, we don't have control of this sector, but ultimately, as long as we keep trading, we'll inevitably be able to get in there. Really nice job by that mortar to blow the Chinook sky high on the backside. Look at that fireball. Looks very cool. Enemy cluster coming in now though, and that's gonna unfortunately make short work of my T-62s. BTR's also driving over. AMX-10 finishes off the other one. The Mistral there doesn't reload fast enough to get a second shot onto the MTV. First shot, I believe, probably missed because of the 20% ECM, so exactly what it's there for. And now it's able to put lots of pain onto the Grenadier voltages. So the BTR's pushing across aggressively now to try and clean out the buildings opposite the centre here. All the while, I have brought in a couple extra units on the left-hand side, just to continue sort of probing over here after we got attacked in that location. Because we have been trading relatively well, I was somewhat convinced that there might not be too much on the left-hand side. The RPG-7 doing its best to hit the Challenger Mark II there in the front armour. Not really going to work out too well. A little bit of a wasteful grad strike here. Whilst it looks like it's hitting in kind of the right location, that was the full 40 rockets from both and didn't really get the job done. Now on the backside here, you can see that I have also brought in the 240mm HE mortars. Now these HE mortars are really not as good as the cluster variants. The cluster variants are very, very reliable at killing things, whereas the HE variants are not, because they almost need to direct hit in order to get the job done. MiG-27 came in on the left, chased off by the two Mirages. Those Mirages, unlucky to not get a hit on target, to be honest, even though I guess this does have 30% ECM. Jaguar here, getting taken out. Spetsnaz GRU once again with the Stinger. Same reason that the SAS are so good for the 2nd UK. Having a Stinger with elite veterancy is so nice. It really, really is. BMP2's taken out another SAS there. Fantastic stuff. And my leader trying to work his way in to this centre sector to stop the bleeding. Meanwhile, the Ochrana moving up on the left-hand side, but this Warrior Milan is going to kind of stop me for the time being, because the Ochrana, they don't have any AT, so whilst we can engage the armoured rifles that come with them, this Warrior Milan is going to prevent me from kind of running across the open, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get the Spetsnaz GRU close enough. But at least I have managed to get the leader into the centre, and the plan here is to basically cap this and then probably move back out again, just like our opponents have done with their leaders. But we are seeing a new challenger leader coming in, and so they're going to have that and the infantry leader. My infantry leader is making its escape, but the Spetsnaz were left behind, and they take the bombs to the face, and now the Tornado with its bombs, well, they kill off the leader afterwards. So that was unfortunate, because we're going to lose this soon after, even if my cluster does land pretty close on target. Still going to give that challenger enough time to capture it back, and we don't really have the leader in position to do that. Oh, I did bring up the second leader, so we can push that in, I suppose. But the Warrior Milan on the left here, still got to try and work out a way to get rid of that. But down goes the challenger to that cluster strike. They've done their job, and I'm moving them after. So now I have two. I'm always bringing them in, or like firing them at the same time at heavier targets. But here comes another leader for them, the P4PC. And what I'm going to do is get a couple of Metis squads into position before I try and get the leader back into this sector. Because I want something that can kind of take care of the MX-13s, the MX-30B2s, and so on. BTR helping engage the Milan at a distance. There we go, the leader's back into the sector. And on the left-hand side here, Taki is slowly getting his heavy infantry into position. Taking control of the mid completely will give us the tick in our favour. So we'll be sitting on the +2. Now enemy cluster artillery coming in. If that direct hits infantry squads, it can do a decent amount of damage. The big problem for me is that the leader has actually been spotted here. A little bit of a cheeky push on the left by the Lynx AH-1s. They're going to get hit pretty hard by my Afghansky, but the Afghansky struggling to actually take them out completely as they get low on that left-hand side. We do take one out before it lands, but the second one manages to get on the ground. Two more Ochrana arriving on the left there with those Metlers, and I've got a Metis squad in there. Now the Metis squad should be able to take out the warrior no problem, so that's what I was hoping, and then we could push aggressively forwards with the Metlers to just secure the ground on the left hand side. Ammo belt out in the open, really not lasting very long against my elite infantry there. T62 trying to kill off the Challenger Mark II. MiG-23 coming over top, unfortunately going down. But I love how this looks. Come down, see the MiG flying overhead, dropping its laser guided bombs. Managing to get out just fine in that case. Now I've got my rocket strikes coming in. I've got one rocket strike hitting the left to try and take care of that low health Challenger. One rocket strike on the right, and I'm just going to let them keep firing so that we can kill off any leaders they have. We saw the P4PC, we saw the Challenger Mark II, so I was hoping that those two strikes would get the job done. See the Urals here making a lot of ground very easily on the left. So now it's just a matter of time until I move up and take this position. Once again, the cluster's looking for their targets. AMX-10RC is such a perfect target for them because it's almost a guaranteed kill. if you fire both. I think that's what makes these cluster mortars so strong, is that they have like 40 rounds and they are pretty much guaranteed kills when you fire both of them. Like, it's kind of crazy how good they can be. Personally, I do think they should be nerfed. They should probably have their ammo taken right down to like 8 or 12, and then actually give them some significant resupply cost. Anyway. Lynx AH1 coming right to the front line. Cluster rounds landing on the AMX on the right, taking that out. Afghansky finishes the job. Now all of the Okhrana moving forwards aggressively on the left. I've got the BTR moving forwards here. I'm even bringing a Conkers into position. And we got the leader on the way to just go and capture those. So now, time to bring in the convoy of BTRs with the S8 rocket launchers so that we can fire even more rockets at them on the ground. And I always find it really fun when you look at these convoys and you see these BTRs. When you got loads of different types of them, it's like a proper Mad Max look. Like, especially if they're led by a Metler or something. You know, you got this thing. It just looks absolutely ridiculous. Okay. The Chaika moving in there. I unfortunately like queued the order, but it didn't like full cap the sector before it moved back out again, so I had to move it back in temporarily just to make sure that we get the tick in our favor. Now the BTR going to be just trying to get into a good position to prevent enemy infantry, and all of the Okhrana can continue moving forwards. That security trait going to come in really handy if they can get to the edge of the town, because they can sit in these buildings, for example, and provide us with fantastic recon using those good optics. But in the middle, you know, we've managed to maintain control over this. We have my Chaika here kind of chilling behind this building for when we're ready to push back in there, say if they try and contest it. We've also got a couple of T-62s on the way, a couple more Iglas. Mortars still doing their thing. So you can see these two, they're going to fire at this AMX-30. And unfortunately the dispersion makes them way worse than the cluster, but potentially these could be really good if you had them much closer up. Because they're mortars, their minimum range is like actually not too bad. So Gazelle Hot 2 and Lynx AH1's coming in to contest this sector. I was hoping to just be able to move the Chaika straight up here, but since I didn't really have the Stingers in position, it was difficult for me to stop them putting pressure in here with helicopters. And the BTR-70 coming over with the grenade launcher, getting on target there, whilst the T-62 gets an HGM onto the Lynx on the backside. So that worked out quite nicely. And they have managed to recap this, so we're hoping that we can get my leader back in there. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Okhrana doing their best against the Emmerbilt. The Emmerbilt are going to have superior veterancy thanks to the Emmerbilt leader, so the Okhrana out in the open are getting picked off. Ideally, I would have put them in this building, but probably wasn't paying attention to that as I was pushing into the center here. So the T-62 is going to be taking their positions whilst the Chaika uses the Rex building here to block the line of sight, parking up like any other car. Oh, nice, get onto the Chinook back there at least. And the mortars trying to do their best to help out on the left-hand side and bringing up the Ural here with the ZU 23-2 on it. What a classic. Managing to finish off those low health Lynxes. Now the Mirage coming in for the Napalm. Chaika goes down, but at least we take out the Napalm aircraft in the process. I've also got my Grads firing away once again. Try and demolish the Amabel units that came into that sector. All the while, another Ural hunting down the Gazelle. And this is honestly like the fun part about this division, is just all of these really interesting units. You're using Urals with sort of BTR turrets on them and rockets. You've also got the Urals with the ZG-23. You've got all different types of BTRs. There's like the Afghansky with exceptional optics, which is super cool. And the BTR-70s. Like, these are just very, very awesome. And whilst the 20 mils will get the better of you over time, like the rocket pods are still going to be good enough to take out one, at least, I imagine, in those sorts of engagements. Okay, finally my AA is trying to arrive, but the Strela 10M does get picked off by the AMX-30B2, which is kind of bad timing. I've brought in a couple of MiG-23 MLDs, and they're going to be hunting down this F1C. Actually managed to hit that very well. Now going for the second. Managed to take that out as well. Laser guided bomb comes in, takes out the AMX-30B2 on the left-hand side. And my two MiGs actually managed to make it out. So, really, really nice set of plays there. Got a couple of Mi-8 MTVs of my own coming in for support. The MiG-27 here. Check out that missile. I forgot to evac it after it destroyed the AMX-30. But since it does have 4 infrared missiles, it managed to take out the Gazelle for us before it landed, so that was pretty clutch. And yes, my opponent has surrendered at this point, but the game is basically over in terms of control. The Takis managed to get into this sector, and we captured this far left sector. The mid it's only a matter of time until we get another leader to take that back. And in this area, well, Vector's doing his best to hold us back. But he can't do anything against the truck, surely. Look at that thing go. Oh yeah. The 20 mil, once it gets on target, will kill that pretty quickly, but the T-62 saves the day. The BTR-70 with the grenade launcher you can hear firing away onto the enemy infantry there. So the Escorte taken out, and the T-62, only a matter of time until that gets into that sector. 2 more Afghanskys on the way. I thought that bringing in these earlier would have been a good idea, but honestly, these aren't as good against helicopters as I would have hoped. So, yeah, my abundance of different vehicles managing to eventually win the day, and I have made plenty of adjustments to this division since this game was played. So if you see a different deck in the deck sheet, which you can find in the description of this video, then it's mainly because this was more or less one of the first games that I ever played with this division. So, for example, I kept in the 240s, but I think I actually took out the HE variants, although it might be interesting to try the HE variants closer up. I took out the BTRs with the S3 or S5 that I originally had in the deck, because the S8 variant is just better, and it's probably always worth spending the extra 5.4. Just a bunch of different changes that I made that I feel like made the division a lot more useful, because the Dush Sapore on their own are not that good. So going for like the thicker squads, like you saw the big squads over here that Turkey has with the RPG-22s, the 14-man squads, those things are very, very nice to use. But just, yeah, it gets pretty crazy in this division, it really does. With the amount of different vehicles you have all over the place. BTR S8's taking out the Dragon Powders now. Got the T-62 leader in here, pushing it to a +8. And that will be it for this game. So yeah, nice look at this new map. I really like this map. I think it's very well balanced. The way that you have the 4 sort of skewed points on each side with the one central objective. It seems to work out very well. There's also some really cool features like this broken bridge that I showed you guys at the beginning. You got the big train line that heads all the way through the map. So that's very cool indeed. Loads of like box cars left about all over the place. Here of course fighting over the high rises and such. Very cool. Well, there it is, that's victory with the 56th, 8,195 kills to 5,260 losses. Yeah, fun game. And in the end you could see that this unit did pretty well. That was ambushing a lot of my opponent's forces. The 240 mils you can see can do exceptionally well, especially against armor that's just like a little bit lighter than like the heavy armor that you're normally bumping into. So Challenger 2s really suffer because they had their armor nerfed, and also like AMX-30s and AMX-10s just not really ever going to have like the same tankiness. So those cluster mortars really take those out very easily. The Grad's got plenty of value as usual, and the MiG-27 with the laser guided bomb certainly helped us out. The Afghansky did take down a couple of Lynxes for us, but it definitely struggles to do that in my opinion. And then the MiG-23 MLD there with a nice couple of kills. At the end it was just clean up. So yeah, early on you can see the big things that you really need to rely on in this division are those 240mm mortars. Also the abundance of ATGMs that you can bring in. Those will really save you against your ultimate counter, which I believe is really like Bradley's, Marder's, Warrior Milan's, that kind of thing. So watch out for those. I think also like heavy tank divisions can wipe the floor with this division in like a little bit more of an open map scenario. So it will definitely struggle in an open map, I feel, unless you can really get into some good positions with those ATGMs and your opponent doesn't invest into too much artillery. But you can tell by just the way I'm explaining that it requires a lot of caveats to make it work. A really fun division to play, honestly. I really love the abundance of different units in this division, and yeah, very happy with it. Hopefully guys enjoyed it. Thank you much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.